Tribe of Reuben. My name is Yair Davidiy. I'm speaking to you from Jerusalem, the capital of Israel. And I'm speaking to you on behalf of Brit-Am, Hebrew nations, a group that finds the lost in tribes, has found the lost in tribes amongst Western nations. And our organisation stresses the principles of researching the subject of lost in tribes, finding where they are, revealing this information, publicising it, and also working towards the reconciliation of Judah, the Jewish people, and the lost 10 tribes of Israel. And these are the 3 R's, the 3 major principles of Brit-Am: research, revelation, reconciliation. And now we're going to add another R for the sake of this talk, which concerns Reuben, the tribe of Reuben. So amongst the proofs and the indications that we bring, we find the names of tribes. The names of tribes and clans within the tribes, we find these names repeated amongst historical groups that we can trace, and we find that the names are very similar names of different historical peoples that are the same as those of Israelite tribes, of clans within the tribes, and we show how they moved and how they were indeed descended from Israelites, how they eventually congregated in the West, and how groups that belonged to one particular tribe always tended to coalesce and stick together, and also that the previous tribal formations and links between the tribes that had existed in the biblical times were to be repeated throughout history. And this is what we do. This is one of the aspects of the proofs that we bring. And we talk about, especially in this book, the tribes. We emphasize that this book, the tribes, goes into these matters in detail. And it deals with the whole subject of identifying the lost 10 tribes of Israel with peoples in the West, with West European peoples and the USA and Canada, Australia, New Zealand and South Africa, who also belong to the tribes of Israel and were especially associated especially with the tribe of Joseph. 2 tribes of Joseph were Ephraim and Manasseh. But the firstborn son of Israel was Reuben. We find Reuben also to have come to Western Europe, to be found in Western Europe, and we find that Reuben was to be especially predominant amongst the French people, and that is what we're going to speak about. In Numbers 26, we are told, beginning from verse 5, Numbers, the book of Numbers in the Bible, chapter 26, verse 5, beginning from verse 5, it says, Reuben was the firstborn of Israel. The children of Reuben were of Hanok, the family of the Hanokites; of Pallu, the family of the Palluites; of Hezron, the family of the Hezronites; of Carmi, the family of the Carmites. These are the families of the Reubenites. Those who were numbered of them were 43,730. The son of Pallu was Eliab. The sons of Eliab were Namur, Dathan, and Abiram. These are the Dathan and Abiram, representatives of the congregation who contended against Moses and Aaron in the company of Korah, when they contended against the Lord, and the earth opened its mouth and swallowed them together with Korah. When that company died, when the fire devoured 250 men, and they became a sign, nevertheless the children of Korah did not die. So this story of Korah, which is recalled together with 2 of the elders of Reuben, this event, we discuss this in a talk concerning Korah in the book of Numbers, and now we are tracing descendants of Reuben amongst Western and other peoples, and showing that the same names were repeated in Genesis 46. We find, beginning from verse 8, Genesis 46 verse 8, and these are the names of the children of Israel which came into Egypt: Jacob and his sons, Reuben, Jacob's firstborn. And the sons of Reuben, Hanok and Pallu, Hezron and Carmi. And when they entered the land of Israel, Reuben inherited part of Israel to the east of the Jordan, together with the tribes of Gad and half the tribe of Manasseh, and their territory eventually reached up to the Euphrates River. And we find descendants of Reuben referred to as Rebaeans, Reuben, Rebaen, in the correspondence from the city of Mari in the northern Syria. And archaeologists have found references to the Rebaeans in this area, and also in the region of northeast Syria. We find in the geography of Ptolemy a people known as Rahabane, which is also similar to Reuben. And we find other indications that Reubenites were in this area, and after The Israelites were exiled. The northern 10 tribes were all taken into exile by the Assyrians. They lost consciousness of their identity, and we have shown how they became associated with the Scythians and the Cimmerians and the Goths, and how they moved from the Middle East. They moved northward into southern Russia and eastern Russia and all that region, and afterwards they were pushed to the west. And at one stage they were more to the east. And we find amongst these groups people known as Rahabani, which also linked with other Israelite tribes. This name was almost identical to that which was given to Reuben in the geography of Ptolemy, apparently recording traditions from before the Israelites were exiled. We also find the Ribuari Franks. The Ribuari Franks, the Ribuari Franks were in France and in Germany. From Germany they moved into France, and they're known as the Ribuari Franks, and usually this name Ribuari is explained as being a form of Ripuari, meaning riverbank Franks, but we find variations of the name such as Ruby and so on, and indications are that this name Ribuari was not given to them because they dwelt on the riverbank, but they had a similar name from the very beginning, and because they dwelt on the riverbank or near the riverbank at one stage, the Romans interpreted their name to mean this, to mean riverbank. And this was the habit of the ancient Romans, and not only of the Romans but of the Greeks and also of the Hebrews, of all ancient peoples, to interpret existing names in terms of meanings in their own language. And these meanings were not necessarily those do not necessarily explain the original meaning of the names concerned. And of the clans of Reuben we have Hanok, and Hanok, we find Hanok in amongst the Hanioki, amongst the Scythian peoples in the Caucasus area, and later in Western Europe we found the Corki or the Chorki in the northwest France and in the Netherlands. And also we find the Hugo amongst the Scythians, Hugo peoples amongst the Scythians, and this name Hugo was also another name applied to the Franks when they moved westward. And also we have later on a legendary ghost, one could say, whose name was given to the Huguenots. The Huguenots were a separate people of Protestants in southern France, or also in Alsace and other different areas of France. They were Calvinists, similar to Presbyterians, and they may have been in part descended from Jews, from Marano Jews and others. Our impressions are that they were separate people from the rest of the French, and on the whole, these people were positively inclined towards the Jews. And it may be that they were a separate entity, and that they were indeed physical descendants of Hugo, or Hagi, who was one of the clans of Reuben. We also have another name of the clan of Reuben was the Palui or Falui, and we have Fabia in Germany. Westphalia is a region of Germany. That was a region where the Franks were located before they moved into Gaul, into France. We have the Hetsoni, became the Hazuari, the Franks, who from Germany moved into France, and Istavons, and who are also known as the Sicambri, and the Sicambri also became Franks. And we find the Sicambri, or Sicambri variations of the names. We find them in Scythia, we find them in north of the Black Sea area, we also find them in Italy, and we find them on the borders of Afghanistan, and eventually we find them in Western Europe. And these different names, we trace them, we show their migrations and the peregrinations, their movements around and about, eventually always converging in the west. We also have Kami, we gave its name to Karmania in southern Iran. That was when the Scythians were in that region. And then they were pushed out further to the north. Also, they may have given their name to the Crimea. The Crimea in Scythia was associated with the Scythians. Also, it was also associated with the Cimmerians, with whom the Goths were. The Cimmerians and the Goths and the Scyths were all one federation of peoples, to whom the Israelites were identifiable or linked up with. And we also have this name Kami or Karini applied to a group of Franks in Gaul. So we have a concentration, one could say, on peoples, especially Frankish peoples, so-called, who gave their name to France, and they had moved from Scythia through Germany into Gaul, into France. And another point of interest is that Gog was a minor clan of Reuben, and we have Gogarine in Iberia in the Caucasus. And Gog became the name of a people associated with Gog and Magog, and they are not Israelites, but sometimes it happened that in folklore, in legends and so on, the lost 10 tribes were associated with Gog and Magog, the people of Gog and Magog, and with the Goths. And there was an association, and there was a linkage, and these peoples were, some of them were from the lost 10 tribes, the lost 10 tribes were with them. And they eventually moved to the west, and the Goths, who descend from Gad, as we shall explain in a separate talk, eventually settled in Sweden. So at all events, we have amongst the tribes of Reuben, or the clans of Reuben, we have groups which are concentrated in the French region. Another name is Nemuel, from also from Reuben, gave rise to the Nemetes in Gaul. And in addition to these names that all concentrated in France and gave their names to the different entities who became the Franks who settled in France, we have numerous other proofs showing the French to be descended from Reuben. And we shall discuss these later. Thank you.